2026. Only 1 month left before spring is over and we head into summer. So, I'd like to talk today about a bit of a controversial little subject. Father, thank you today, what we're going to talk about, and I ask your blessing and your thoughts in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, there has been something that has been going on in our society these last few years. And I want to address that today because we seem to have forgotten something called disagreement. It's okay to disagree with somebody. But you see, our culture these days has basically accepted two major lies. The first one is that if you disagree with someone, you must either fear or hate them. And that's really unfortunate because what it has done has developed what we call the cancel culture. It means that if you disagree with someone, then basically you either, of course, fear or hate them. And that is completely and totally false. It's okay to disagree with somebody. In fact, here's a perfect example. Let's say you have a husband and wife, and they have something to discuss, something that is important to discuss. Basically, the possibility of them not disagreeing is, of course, or offending someone in that discussion is almost slim and none. Because the simple fact is, you have two people who are coming together that are basically discussing a very important issue, and both of them have strong opinions. Now, in this atmosphere of being a couple, it means that they have to find the middle ground. They have to find the compromise. And it doesn't mean that you hate the person. It doesn't mean that you fear the person. It just simply means that you're trying to find a solution. You care about each other. But what you have to do is find the middle ground. You look at the pros, you look at the cons of the situation, and then you come to a solution. But you see, in the cancel culture that we currently live in, if you disagree with someone or if you hurt their feelings, then of course and many people will use this as an argument against you. Oh, you hate me. You fear me. There's something wrong with you. No, it just means that you disagree with their position. Did you know that in the ancient yeshivas, that was, of course, the Jewish uh, debate area, they love to disagree with each other. Why? Because disagreement often brings agreement. That's right. You bring your point to the table. You bring it across, and then, of course, you bring a position that maybe somebody hasn't even thought about. It was interesting. I was listening last night to an interview between Drew Barrymore and Mila Kunis. Now, Mila Kunis, of course, her background is Russian. And when she was dating and then ultimately married Ashton Kutcher, she said, we had known each other since we were teenagers. She says, Ashton knows that she says, I have a fiery disposition. He knows that I'm going to sometimes disagree with him. But he says, he also knows me well enough that if you bring to me a thoughtful presentation, she says, often I will change my mind. And she says that is what makes a strong relationship. You are not necessarily trying to dominate someone, you just simply want to bring your opinion. And the reality is, people want to be heard. People need to be heard. And, any CEO when he has a roundtable discussion, he knows that there are going to be different opinions. But having a different opinion means that maybe, just maybe, someone is bringing to you a better idea than what you currently have. And that is not fear, and that is not hatred. That is called discussion. That is coming to a positive end. And sometimes discussions can get rather heated, but that doesn't mean that you hate somebody. That doesn't mean that you fear someone. It just means that you disagree. But you see, our culture has accepted this as a lie. And so it doesn't work in the real world. In the real world, people disagree. In the real world, discussion has to happen so that things can be advanced. There was a guy named whose name was Henry Ford. Henry Ford always wanted to have other ideas. He knew that his ideas were not the ultimate ideas. Now, we often see, especially these days in American government, that one man's idea can, be the priority over everybody else's. And unfortunately, that particular individual has, basically put the world into jeopardy because he didn't listen to, of course, the good ideas. For example, President Trump, he decided to go into the war against Iran, and yet his chief of staffs, his vice president, and other people that were in the upper echelon said, this is not a good idea. But he went into it anyway, and you and I are living with those consequences. We're dealing with high gas prices. We're dealing with inflation that has ticked up to the highest levels since, just currently after COVID. So that is what happens when you allow or don't allow other people's opinions. And when you come and say, well, because you disagree with me, you either fear me or hate me, that is an absolute lie that has been promoted in our culture as well. The second one is if you love someone means that you agree with everything, believe or do. That's another one that we hear. Well, I love you, so you know what? I'm going to let you do whatever it is that you do. The first line of area that it should not happen is especially in parenting. Parents who say, well, I don't want to squash little Jill or little Johnny's, creativity and will. You know what? They're going to have a child that is, basically the boss in the home. And they're going to have a child that basically will do what they want to do. And they're going to have a real powerful reality check, especially when they go to school or they run into another child who basically disagrees with them. And their little ego is going to be hurt and squashed. And mom and dad will come to the rescue, and basically they'll affirm that bad behavior. So basically, if you love someone, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything they believe or do. But you see, that's another lie that is promoted in a lot of circles. The reality is that if you really love somebody, if they're doing something destructive, then it needs to be addressed. In AA, or Alcoholics Anonymous, or Narcotics Anonymous, one of the foundations that, of course, is part of that organization is intervention. When you have a loved one who is an alcoholic or involved in substance abuse, it is not only destroying them, but often it is destroying the people around them. If you have an alcoholic mom or an alcoholic dad, it is going to affect the family. And only when they recognize that this is a destructive behavior and it is, basically hurting other people, then and only then will, of course, and they realize it, then, of course, that's when healing begins. And sometimes intervention is important. I mean, let's face it. You go down the road And let's say you say to yourself, hey, the rules of the road do not apply to me. And so you start speeding down the road, and then all of a sudden, an officer pulls you over, and you say to him, you can't give me a ticket because the rules of the road don't apply to me. Well, guess what's going to happen? Not only are you going to get a ticket, but maybe you're going to find yourself in jail. Here's another example. The guy who gets behind the wheel when he's drunk. I guarantee that particular policeman is not only going to charge you with a drunk and impaired driving offense, but you're probably going to lose your license, and you're also probably going to lose your car, and you might even end up in jail. And that, of course, has nothing to do with loving somebody and saying that you agree or believe with them. That is a lie that has been accepted in certain areas of our culture. And I want to tell you something. If you have a boss, for example, and he disagrees with you, he doesn't mean that he hates you. He doesn't mean that he fears you. He basically disagrees with you. And if you don't do what he says, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up without a job. And it doesn't matter if you say, well, you don't love me. Your boss doesn't care if he loves you or not. You are working for him. You are doing a job for him. And if you don't do the job, he's not going to care about whether your feelings are hurt or not. He is going to fire you. It's as simple as that. And I remember seeing this one particular video that kind of illustrated. There was a young lady, and she was applying for the job. And the guy said, well, can you show up tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock? And she says, well, really, 8 o'clock is, I'm not used to doing it. Could we try at 10:30? And he says, 10:30? He says, I don't think that you're going to work. This is going to work out. Immediately she says, well, right now I'm not feeling very loved. She says, can I talk to someone in the HR? I think I'm going to need a psychological, day because I'm feeling unloved here. And he says, young lady, you don't work for me. Well, the simple fact is our culture has accepted these two lies. The first one is that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. The second one says that to love someone, you must agree with everything they believe and do, which is utter nonsense. You don't have to, of course, compromise your convictions and your beliefs to be compassionate. It simply means that you disagree with them. It simply means that you cannot accept what they are doing because it could be very destructive. And you don't want to be part of a destructive situation. Just because someone says, hey, I'm a cat, it doesn't matter if they think they're a cat. You do not have to accept the fact that they are a cat. And yet in some schools, they are actually promoting children who think that they're a cat by giving them litter boxes and different things like that. That is not doing them any justice, because the simple fact is people these days should be able to disagree, but we're losing that very important aspect of being able to disagree with somebody, because when you disagree with someone and present ideas that may change their view, guess what? It may be the best thing that ever happened. And also as well, when someone is engaged in a destructive behavior, if you don't intervene, it could have devastating consequences. I've used this illustration before. There is a man who is living in a major city in China, okay? And the Yangtze River runs through that particular city. And on the two sides of the city, between the two sides of that city is, of course, a deep gorge. And there's a there's a bridge that goes over that particular part of the gorge in the city. And so what happens is, if people are feeling rather suicidal and destructive, they'll simply jump off the bridge into the river. And that's the end of the situation. Well, there was a man who was hearing about what was going on, and he decided to do something about it. And so daily he patrols that particular bridge. And when he comes in contact with a jumper, the first thing he does is he tries to talk them down. And if they won't be talked down, he calls the authorities because he doesn't want to see them lose their lives. Well, in 3 years, he has saved 500 lives by convincing people that life is better than suicide. And he has become a local hero within, of course, that community, but also within the country of China for his efforts. Now, in that situation, the people want to end their lives, but he, by talking with them and disagreeing with them, has been able to save their lives. Now, he didn't just talk people out, he also organized in his community. He went to the authorities and said, this is what the problem is. What can we do? He partnered together with the authorities, and they have put together different types of mechanisms to be able to help those people so that they understand that their life is precious. Now get this is in a communist country that these things are happening. Okay, it's not Canada or United States. This is communist China, but the local officials recognize what he is doing, and they are backing him up, and they are helping him save people's lives. So you see, even in places where you don't think these things can happen, one person can make all the difference. And what is that? He simply disagreed with the people who were going to end their lives, and he showed them that there is a better path. And disagreement can lead to a better path. That's why we must not accept these two lies, that if we disagree with someone's lifestyle or with their ideas, that we must hate or fear them. The second lie is that if you love someone, it means you agree on everything they believe and do. Remember, both of those are nonsense. You don't have to compromise your convictions. You don't have to compromise your thoughts to be compassionate. In fact, if you really love someone, you know what? You may disagree with what they're doing to save them and to help them out of a destructive pattern. So that's my thoughts today on these two particular thoughts. So, of course, you may disagree with me, which is perfectly fine. But you know what? It's not going to change my idea on this particular situation, because I do not subscribe to those two lies that have been promoted in our culture today. Well, my name is Robert Dean Steele. If you like what you've been hearing and seeing, I encourage you to press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I want to thank all the people that have been doing just that, been subscribing, and also, of course, commenting on what I have been talking about. Also, as well, I encourage you to check out my YouTube shorts every single day. I do different YouTube shorts. These are little messages to encourage you and give you different thoughts, and they're on every day. And so check those out as well. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you for joining me today. And it's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to agree with me either. Either way, I'm not going to worry about whether you fear or hate me, because I understand that the world operates in different opinions. But you know what? Having a different opinion is okay. It may be something that you can learn today by someone disagreeing. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you for spending time with me. Have yourself a great and godly day.